If willpower worked, you wouldn't be watching this video. You'd already have what you want. You'd have lost the weight, quit the habit, made the change, achieved all your goals, but you're here, which means you've probably tried willpower. Maybe many times. I know I did, and it didn't stick. So let's talk about why trying harder keeps you stuck and what actually creates lasting change. Hi, my name is Vicki Poole, and I'm super excited to be here with you sharing this knowledge. So, I've been working with clients as a health coach, life coach, and a hypnotist for nearly a decade. And I'm a master transformational coach and a board certified hypnotist with 5 certifications in hypnosis. And I've worked with hundreds of people over these years. People struggling with weight, addiction, anxiety, procrastination, self sabotage, you name it. And here's what I've learned: the clients who succeed aren't the most disciplined, not by a long shot. They're not the ones with the strongest willpower. They're the ones who understand how their mind actually works, with my help, of course. And in this video, I'm going to explain why willpower fails even for incredibly disciplined people. And I'm going to walk you through the science of how your conscious and subconscious mind work. Interesting stuff, I'm going to tell you, and why it even matters. So I'll show you what actually creates real lasting change, and I'm going to share some real client examples throughout so you can see this in action, not just in theory. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why you've been stuck. And it's not because you're broken or lazy or undisciplined, no matter what other people have said. You've just been working at the wrong level. So let's dive in. You ready? I know I'm ready. So first, let's talk about the willpower myth, because this is where most people start. Willpower is a conscious mind strategy. It's your logical brain saying, I'm going to do this thing, or I'm not going to do this thing. And it feels like it should work, right? You're a smart person. You know what you should do. You have good reasons, good intentions, you're motivated. But here's the problem: your habits, your patterns, your automatic behaviors, those all live in your subconscious mind. So you're literally using the wrong tool for the job. It's like trying to fix your car with a hammer when you need a wrench. I started to say screwdriver, but no, on a car you need a wrench. Let me explain what willpower actually is and why it fails. Willpower is your conscious mind trying to override your subconscious programming. And yes, it can work short term. You've probably experienced this yourself. You start a diet on Monday. This used to be my thing. I start on Monday. You're really motivated. You do great for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, maybe even a few months. You feel in control. You feel like this time it's different. But then something happens, something comes up. You have a stressful day. You go to a party. Everybody else is celebrating and eating whatever they want. You get tired. You don't want to fool with cooking. You go out to eat. You eat anything because you're hungry. Suddenly, all those old patterns have just come back with a vengeance. You eat the thing you said you wouldn't eat. You skip the workout that you promised this time you'd make yourself do it. And then you feel like you failed. But that's not a failure of willpower. That's actually your subconscious mind doing exactly what it's designed to do, keeping you safe by returning to familiar patterns. Because here's what happens with willpower. It exhausts you. You're constantly fighting yourself. Every single time you want the cookie and you say no, every time you want to skip the gym and you force yourself to go, every time you want to procrastinate and you make yourself work, that takes energy and a lot of energy. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that you have more willpower at the beginning of the day? That's not a coincidence. It's because you haven't used it all up yet. By the end of the day, when you're tired, your willpower is depleted. It's gone. That's when you make those choices you said you wouldn't make. We've all been there. Most of us have anyway. Researchers call this decision fatigue. The more decisions you make, the more willpower you use, the harder it gets to keep using it. And eventually, you just completely run out. And then what happens? People think, I just need more willpower. I need to be more disciplined. I need to try harder. Other people can do this and it seems like they can do it without any problem. Why can't I? What's wrong with me? But that's not the real problem. The real problem is you're fighting your own programming. You're in a constant battle with yourself, and the subconscious always wins. Always. Not sometimes, not when you're tired, always. So let me give you an example from my practice. I had a client who came to me for a sugar addiction. She'd been diagnosed with diabetes a couple of years earlier, which was a huge wake-up call for her. She knew consciously, logically, intellectually that she needed to stop eating sugar. Her doctor told her. Her family was worried about her. Heck, she was even worried about herself. So she tried everything: meal plans, cutting out sugar cold turkey, accountability groups, therapy, reading books about sugar addiction, tracking every bite of food. She tried it all. But see, the issue wasn't willpower. This woman was incredibly disciplined. She runs a successful business. She shows up for her team. She meets deadlines. She follows through on commitments. She's not lazy at all. She's definitely not undisciplined. But when it came to sugar, she couldn't stop. She'd go to the gas station every single day and buy a candy bar. She'd promised herself she wouldn't do it, and then she'd do it anyway. She felt completely out of control. And she was so frustrated with herself. She kept thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just stop? But see, the issue wasn't the willpower. It was the belief driving the behavior. There was something underneath the sugar addiction, a belief about control, about comfort, about deserving that made the behavior make sense to her subconscious mind. And until we addressed that belief, no amount of willpower was going to work long term. We'll come back to her story in a few minutes. And I'll tell you what happened when we worked together. But first, I want you to understand why willpower doesn't work. Because once you understand this, you're going to stop blaming yourself. You'll stop thinking there's something wrong with you. And you'll actually realize you've just been using the wrong approach. Okay. So if willpower doesn't work, what does? To understand that, you need to understand how your mind actually works. And I'm going to make this really simple. Not because you're not smart. You definitely are, or you wouldn't be here, right? But because the concept itself is actually simple once you strip away all the jargon that you hear. So your mind has two parts, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Check. We all know that one, right? Your conscious mind, the part that's logical, analytical, makes decisions, thinks about the future, solves problems, That's about 5% of your mental activity. 5%. Now, think about that. 5% is your logical mind. So 95% of the time you're working on subconscious level. And that 5%, that's where the willpower lives, in that 5%. And it's great for certain things. It's great for learning new information, making plans, analyzing situations, doing your taxes. Got to do that. Figuring out directions. Your conscious mind is amazing at these tasks, but it's terrible at creating lasting behavioral change because that's not where behavior lives, remember? It's the 95%. So 95% of your mental activity, that's your subconscious mind. And this is where your beliefs live, your habits, your patterns, your emotional responses, everything that runs automatically without you thinking about it. When you drive home and don't remember the drive because you were on the phone, you were on autopilot, you were distracted, that was your subconscious mind driving the car. When you react emotionally to something before you've even thought about it, subconscious. When you find yourself doing the thing you said you wouldn't, and you don't even know why, subconscious. 95% of what you do every single day is run by your subconscious mind. And here's something really important. Most of your subconscious program was formed before you were 7 years old. What? Yes, before you were 7 years old. Think about that. Before you were 7, before you had the ability to question things or think critically or say, wait, is that actually true? You just absorbed everything around you like a sponge. So if you grew up in a house where love was conditional, you absorbed that. You grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or who do you think you are? Or maybe even, good girls don't speak up. And you absorbed that. I know I did. If you grew up watching the adults around you struggle or sacrifice or play small, you absorbed that too. And all of that programming, believe it or not, is still running in the background, like software on your computer that you installed years ago and forgot about. But it's still there. It's still running, still affecting how everything else operates. And here's the thing about your subconscious mind. Its job is to keep you safe, not happy, not fulfilled, not successful, safe. And to your subconscious mind, safe means familiar. It means what we've always done. It means what we know won't kill us. Change, even positive change, can feel so dangerous to your subconscious mind because it's unfamiliar. It's unknown. And unknown means potentially unsafe. Anything that you've gone through in your life and survived, your subconscious mind is all on board for that. Doesn't matter how bad it was, how devastating it was. It's survivable because you've done it before. So here's why this matters. Because you can want to change with your conscious mind. You can have the best of intentions, the strongest motivation, the clearest goals. You can write them down. You can make a vision board, set reminders on your phone. But if your subconscious believes that the change equals danger, possibly death, it will win every single time. Not because you're weak, not because you don't want it so bad, you don't want it enough, but because your subconscious is literally designed to override your conscious desires in order to keep you safe. And this isn't a character flaw. This is just how minds work. This is how every human mind works. So I love this analogy, and I can't take credit for it, but it really explains it perfectly. Using willpower and affirmations to change a subconscious belief is like trying to update your computer software by tapping on the screen. You can tap all you want. You can tap harder. You can tap with both hands. You can yell at the screen, but nothing's going to change because you're working at the wrong level. You need to actually access the code. You need to get inside the operating system. That's what hypnosis does. All right, let me give you another example from my client work. I worked with a woman who was a brilliant keynote speaker. She could get on stage in front of hundreds of people with a prepared presentation and absolutely knock it out of the park. No anxiety, no fear. She was confident, engaging, powerful. But put her in a networking event where she had to have unscripted conversations, she'd hide in the back room. She'd make excuses to leave early. She'd feel physically ill just thinking about it. She couldn't do it. She even said that she would sit in the back or stand in the back, and if somebody approached her, she would just be sweating profusely because she didn't want to know what to say, and she just didn't want to do it. And her conscious mind, and this didn't make sense to her consciously, she'd think, I can speak in front of 500 people. Why can't I talk to one person at a networking event? What's wrong with me? Her conscious mind was saying, just do it. Just go talk to people. It's okay. You're going to be fine. You're good at talking. You do it on the stage all the time. It's not that hard. But her subconscious belief was completely different. Her subconscious belief, if people really see me, the unscripted, unprepared, real me, they'll reject me. On stage, I'm performing a role. I'm prepared. I'm in control. But in a networking event, they'll see the real me, and the real me isn't good enough. So guess which one won? The conscious desire to network or the subconscious belief that should be rejected? The subconscious every single time until we work together and address that belief at the subconscious level. And I'll tell you what happened with her in a minute. But first, I want to explain what actually creates change. So if you can't willpower your way to change, what actually works? You have to work at the subconscious level where the beliefs actually live. And to do that, there are three things that need to happen. First, you have to identify the real belief, not the surface problem, not what you think is wrong, the belief underneath. Because what you think is the problem usually isn't the actual problem. This is something I see over and over in my practice. Someone comes to me and says, I need to lose weight. And yes, they do want to lose weight. That's real. But the weight is actually the symptom. It's not the cause. So when we dig deeper, we find out it's actually about boundaries. They don't know how to say no to people. So they use weight as a barrier. Or it's about being seen. They're afraid of the attention that comes with being attractive. Or it's about worthiness. They don't believe that they deserve to be seen. Sugar addiction might actually be about control or comfort or feeling like you deserve something sweet in a life that feels bitter. It could be that you're in a life that feels bitter to have something sweet. Weight loss might actually be about boundaries or safety or being seen. Procrastination might actually be about fear of judgment or perfectionism or believing you're not allowed to succeed. So the behavior, the thing you're trying to change with willpower, it's just the surface level. It's the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole belief system underneath it that's holding it in place. And this is why working on the symptoms doesn't work. You're treating the wrong thing. It's like you have a check engine light on in your car and you just put a piece of tape over the light so you don't have to see it anymore. Light's gone, but the engine problem is still there. Eventually, the car is going to break down. And that's what happens when you try to change behavior without addressing the belief. You might white knuckle it for a while, but eventually the belief wins and the behavior comes back. And that's why I was a yo-yo dieter for many, many years. I had great willpower. I could go to eating almost nothing and manage it for a while. Didn't last. So the first step is identifying what the real belief is. And this is where my gift comes in. I call it the drone view. When you're in the problem, you can't see the pattern. You're too close. You're inside it. But I can see it from above, the drone right up above. I can see what you can't see from where you're standing. Second, once you know what the real belief is, you have to access the subconscious mind to change it. Now, there are different ways to do this. Hypnosis is one. Visualization is another. Somatic work, EMDR, certain types of meditation, these can all access the subconscious mind. But hypnosis is especially effective because it bypasses your conscious resistance. Your conscious mind isn't sitting there arguing with the process. You're able to drop down into deeper state where the belief actually lives. And here's something really important that I want to address because it's a huge misconception about hypnosis. You are conscious the whole time during hypnosis. You're not asleep. You're not unconscious. You're not under someone's spell, someone's control. You're aware of what's happening. And some people don't even feel like they're hypnotized at all. Some people feel deeply relaxed, like they're floating or very heavy. Other people don't feel relaxed at all. They just feel like they're sitting there having a conversation with me. Change happens either way when it's done right. You don't have to feel anything for it to work because it works. In fact, I've had clients say to me after a session, I don't think I was hypnotized. I heard everything you said. I was aware the whole time. And then a few days later, they'll come back and say, wait, the thing I was struggling with, I'm not doing it anymore. What happened? That's hypnosis. Working at the subconscious level, even when your conscious mind is convinced nothing happened. I actually had a client yesterday, as a matter of fact, that her conscious mind kept trying to bring her into her physical body more. And so she was scratching and doing all kinds of things. And I said, it's okay. The more you do that, the deeper into hypnosis you're going to go and the better change you're going to make. And it was like her body just settled down and she was able to sit without scratching. It was great. The third thing that has to happen is you actually reset the belief at the source. You're not just managing or coping with it or covering it up with positive thinking. You're actually changing the programming. So let me explain this with an analogy that really makes this clear. You ready? Think about it this way. If you ordered a brand new sofa and it got delivered to your house, the delivery people bring it up the stairs or wherever it is, and they say, where do you want this? And you say, just put it on top of the old one. Now, they would probably sit the sofa down and look at you like you'd lost your mind because that would be ridiculous. You can't sit on two sofas stacked on top of each other. You would actually remove the old sofa out first to make room for the new one, right? That's exactly what most people try to do with beliefs. They try to pile new affirmations and positive thinking on top of old programming. They're saying, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy, on top of a deep subconscious belief that says, I'm not good enough. It might feel better, it might work short term, but it doesn't work long term because the old belief is still there, taking up all the space it wants. The new affirmation is just sitting on top of it, not replacing it at all. So hypnosis removes the old belief first. We go in, we find it, we look at where it came from and why your subconscious created it in the first place, usually to protect you in some way. And then we thank it for its service and we let it go. Then there's actually room for the new belief to land. And when the new belief lands at the subconscious level, the behavior changes naturally. You don't have to force it. You don't have to use willpower. It just happens. It becomes your new normal. And this is why results can be seemingly overnight. Not because hypnosis is magic. It's not, even though it feels like it. But because once you change the belief, the behavior that was being driven by that belief just stops or changes without effort. So let me tell you about another client because her story really illustrates this. This was her first time trying hypnosis. She came to me because she had disempowering beliefs that were heavily ingrained, and she'd had them for years. And they were beginning to impact her well-being, her relationships, her work, her sense of self. She tried a lot of things before coming to me: therapy, self-help books, journaling, meditation, all good things, all good things. But the beliefs were still there. We worked together once a week for 6 weeks, and here's what she said after just the first session. The results were almost instantaneous. In fact, I remember walking with more pep in my step and truly excitedly counting down the days to my next hypnotherapy session because of the positively impactful results I was experiencing seemingly overnight. Seemingly overnight after one session. Now, we still worked together for 6 more weeks because there were layers to work through. That first session addressed one belief, and then we could see what was underneath it. We kept going deeper. And by the end of those 6 weeks, she didn't just feel better. She decided to become a hypnotist herself. That was so impacted by the work that she wanted to be able to do this for other people. That's what happens when you work at the right level. And she's doing amazing, by the way. So now let me get back to that first client I was talking about, the keynote speaker who couldn't network. When we started working together, we identified the real belief. If people see the real me, they'll reject me. That belief made perfect sense once we found it. She had experiences growing up where she herself wasn't safe, where she'd been rejected or criticized for just being who she was. So her subconscious learned: perform, don't be real. Control the narrative, don't be spontaneous. Be prepared, don't be vulnerable. On stage with a prepared keynote, she was performing, she was in control, and she was safe. At a networking event, she had to be herself, unscripted, vulnerable. Her subconscious said, danger, danger, and shut her down. So why did hypnosis address that belief? We went back to those early experiences. We helped her younger self understand what was really happening. And we reset the belief from being myself leads to rejection to I'm safe being myself. And one of the ones we went back to was a time when she felt the most confident, the most free. And we rebuilt that memory so that she could bring that up anytime she wanted to. It was a beautiful memory. So here's what happened. She went to a networking event the very next day. She didn't plan it that way. It was already on her calendar, but she showed up differently. Instead of hiding in the back, she sat in the front. When they asked for volunteers, she just automatically raised her hand. She got on stage in front of all those people, not with a prepared speech, but to participate in an activity completely unscripted. And she loved it. She brought the audience in on the conversation. People were hanging on her words. And when she got off the stage, people were high-fiving her, treating her like their best friend. The event organizer asked her to stay longer because everyone was so engaged. And when she got in her car to leave, Girl, You're on Fire was playing on the radio. She messaged me right after that. She couldn't believe it. After years of struggling with networking, after one hypnosis session, she walked in differently. That's not because she tried harder. It's because the belief changed. Now, let me go back to the sugar addiction client I mentioned earlier. Remember her? Diabetes, buying candy at the gas station every day, couldn't stop no matter how hard she tried. When we started working together, we identified the real belief underneath the sugar addiction. It wasn't about sugar. It was about control and deserving. She felt like her life was out of control in a lot of ways. Her job was stressful. Her relationships were difficult. She didn't have good boundaries, and sugar was the one thing that was hers, the one thing she could control, the one thing she felt like she deserved. We did hypnosis sessions around control, finding other ways to feel in control that actually served her. We worked on deserving, helped her believe she deserved good things, not just sweet things. We worked on boundaries so she didn't need sugar as an escape. We did things to desensitize her to sugar so sugar was not her natural go-to. And here's what happened. After our first session, she went to a gas station and didn't buy candy. Not because she was trying not to, she just didn't want it. After that, it was Thanksgiving. Her work had a huge spread with all the different Thanksgiving treats. She barely touched any of it. These were normally her favorite things. So she would eat so much that she'd feel sick, and she barely touched any of it. Not because she was restricting herself, not because she was using willpower. She just wasn't craving it anymore. She told me later, I can still have sugar if I want it, but I don't want it. That's the difference. Before, I felt like I couldn't have it and I wanted it desperately. Now I can have it, and I just don't want it. That's what happens when you change the belief instead of managing the behavior. So if this approach works so well, why do so many people stay stuck? It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they don't want it enough. It's not because they're broken. It's because they're working on the wrong thing. And there are three main mistakes I see people make over and over. The first mistake is working on symptoms instead of beliefs. People focus on the behavior they want to change. I need to lose weight. I need to stop procrastinating. I need to be more confident. I need to stop people pleasing. And yes, those are outcomes you want. I get that. But those are actually symptoms. They're not the cause. And if you just focus on losing weight without addressing why you're holding on to the weight, it's going to come back. Not immediately. Maybe you'll lose 20 pounds, but eventually, if the underlying belief is still there, the weight comes back. I see this all the time. Someone loses weight. I know this was me. Then something stressful happens and all the weight comes back plus more. And they think they failed. I felt like I failed. But they didn't and I didn't. The belief was still there. They just stopped managing the symptoms for a while. Or procrastination. You can learn all the productivity hacks in the world. You can try different techniques and time blocking and accountability partners. And those might help for a bit. But if the underlying belief is, if I finish this and it's not perfect, people will judge me. Or if I succeed, people will expect more from me and I can't handle that. No productivity hack is going to fix it long term. You have to address the belief. And this is hard to do on your own because you can't see the belief clearly when you're standing inside of it. You think the symptom is the problem. You think, if I could just lose the weight, everything would be better. You can't see that the weight is there for a reason. That's why working with someone who can see the patterns, someone who has that drone view I talked about, is so valuable. They can see what you can't see. The second mistake people make is trying to think their way out of a subconscious problem. I can't tell you how many clients come to me and they can explain exactly what the problem is. They've read the books, they've been to therapy, they understand why they do what they do. They can tell you all about their childhood and how it shaped their beliefs, and that's wonderful. Awareness is important. Understanding is important, but understanding the problem doesn't solve it. You can know intellectually that your belief isn't true. You can understand where it came from. You can recognize it when it shows up. But if it's still running at the subconscious level, it's still going to control your behavior. It's like knowing your car has a mechanical problem. You can understand exactly what's wrong with the engine. You can read the manual. You can watch YouTube videos about how engines work. But until you actually go in and fix the engine, the car is not going to run properly. Affirmations without belief work are just empty words. You're saying, I am confident, while your subconscious is screaming, no, you're not. And your subconscious is louder. You have to actually change the programming, and you can't do that with your conscious mind alone. The third mistake, and this is a biggie, it's not giving it enough time. Now, I want to be really clear about this because I don't want to contradict what I said earlier about results being seemingly overnight, right? One session can create a major shift. It often does. I've seen it happen over and over. People come with a problem they've had for years. We do one hypnosis session, and that specific issue is resolved or significantly better. That's real. That happens. But here's what most people don't realize. What you think is the problem is often covering something deeper. It's like peeling an onion. We address one layer, and then we can see what's underneath. Someone comes in for procrastination, we do a session. The procrastination gets better. Great. But then they notice they're avoiding something else now. Maybe they're not procrastinating on work anymore, but now they're procrastinating on having a difficult conversation or making decisions or taking care of themselves. That's not the hypnosis not working. That's us seeing the next layer now that the first one is addressed. Or someone comes in for anxiety. We address the anxiety around one specific thing, maybe public speaking, and that anxiety goes away. But then they notice things happening in other areas, social situations, making decisions, feeling judged. Because the surface anxiety was just one expression of a deeper belief. Maybe I'm not safe unless I'm in control. Or people will hurt me if they really see me. We address one branch of the tree, but the root is still there. So other branches are still going to grow. That's why I work in packages rather than one-off sessions. Not because change is slow. Change can be incredibly fast. But because there are usually multiple layers to work through. And each layer we address makes the next layer visible. You can't see what's underneath until you remove what's on top. I had a client who came to me for weight loss. That was the presenting issue. I want to lose weight. We did hypnosis. She started losing weight. Great. But then she realized the weight loss was bringing up anxiety about being seen, about getting attention, about taking up less space, meaning people could get closer to her. And we addressed that belief about safety and being seen. And then she realized she didn't really have good boundaries. There was people pleasing all the time, apologizing for things that she didn't need to apologize for, saying yes when she meant to say no. So we addressed the beliefs around boundaries and worthiness. And then she realized she was in an unhappy marriage, and staying in it was making her miserable. We didn't start there. Now, if in the first session I had said, actually, you need a divorce, she would have left and never come back. She wasn't ready to see that, and I didn't know that yet either. But by the time we got there, after we'd addressed the weight and the visibility and the boundaries, she and I could see it clearly. And she had the tools and the self-belief to actually make that change. By the end of our time working together, yes, she had lost weight, but more importantly, she had left a marriage that wasn't serving her. She had healthy boundaries with her family, a better relationship with her family. She could look in the mirror and say, I love myself, and actually mean it. That didn't happen in one session. That happened over time as we worked through the layers. So if you've tried everything and nothing works, you're not broken. You've just been working at the wrong level. Or you addressed one layer and didn't realize there were more layers underneath. So what do you do with all this information? What's your next step? You have a few options, and I want to be really honest with you about all of them. First option, you can work with me. I do personalized hypnosis sessions, not generic recordings that you buy online and listen to at home. Now, I do have those available. However, those can be helpful for some things, but for deep belief work, you need something designed specifically for you, for your beliefs and your story. When we work together, we find your belief, not a template, not the belief people usually have about this issue, your specific belief. And I work in packages because, as I explained, real transformation usually has layers to work through. We address what you came for, and then we see what's underneath. We keep going until you feel solid and free and like yourself, your new normal. So if that interests you, there's a link in the description. You can set up a time to talk and see if working together makes sense. Second option, you can try this yourself. And I mean that genuinely. I'm not one of those people who says, you can't do this without me. You can make progress on your own. Start by getting curious about your beliefs. Instead of focusing on the behavior you want to change, ask yourself, what belief would make this behavior make sense? If you keep procrastinating, what belief would procrastination be the logical choice? Maybe if I don't finish, I can't fail. Maybe if I succeed, people will expect more from me. Maybe I don't deserve success. Just get really curious. Journal about it. Meditate on it. Notice what comes up. And this can give you real insight. I've had people have breakthroughs just from asking themselves that question. But I want to be honest with you. Without working at the subconscious level, the shifts are usually temporary. You might understand the belief. You might recognize it when it shows up. You might even be able to manage it better. But understanding doesn't reprogram the belief. Recognizing it doesn't make it go away. You might have moments where you feel different, where the belief loosens its grip. But under stress, under pressure, when you're tired or overwhelmed, the old program comes back like a fog because it's still there. You just have more awareness of it, which is better than nothing. Awareness is valuable, but it's not the same as actually changing the programming at the subconscious level. The third option, keep learning. So subscribe to this channel. I put out videos regularly about how beliefs work, how to create real change, how to work with your subconscious mind instead of fighting it. You can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I share content there too. Different platforms, different styles, but all focused on helping you understand how your mind works and how to actually create the change you want. You could even read my book, The Light Beyond the Map. It's available on Amazon, and I'll have the link down below. It's about transformation and finding your way when you feel lost. You can listen to my podcast, Today's Dream, Tomorrow's Reality. There are lots of ways to stay connected and keep learning. Here's my final thought. And this is what I really want you to take away from this video. Willpower isn't the problem. You're not the problem. You're not undisciplined. You're not weak. You're not broken. You don't need to try harder. You've just been trying to change at the wrong level. You've been trying to update the software by tapping on the screen. You've been trying to put a new sofa on top of the old one. You've been using your conscious mind to fight your unconscious programming. And that doesn't work. Not because you're doing it wrong. It's because it's the wrong tool for the job. Now you know better. Now you understand that real lasting change happens at the subconscious level where your beliefs actually live. And whether you work with me or you work on this yourself or you just keep learning, now you know what to focus on. Not the behavior, it's the belief underneath it. Not managing the symptoms, removing the old program to make room for new programming. Not fighting yourself, but working with how your mind actually works. That's the difference between change that lasts a few weeks and change that lasts a lifetime. Now, if you're ready to stop fighting yourself and start working with how your mind actually works, I'd love to talk to you. There's a link in the description below where you can book a time to connect with me, or just comment "ready" below this video and I'll reach out to you. Let's find the belief that's running the show. Let's address it at the subconscious level, and let's create the change you've been trying to create. But this time, make it actually last. Make it stick. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. If this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. And I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!